tossed and turned over this subject today. I ask you to bear with me. This was laid upon my heart, and it may come off to you as maybe more negative information, but it is our job to touch and get in touch with our inner alchemist. Everyone, you have an inner alchemist, you have an inner teacher, you have all this inside you. The alchemist is able to take that which is negative and make it positive. Or, I like to say, make it spiritual. Sometimes spiritual has nothing to do with what you perceive as good or bad or this or that. Sometimes it's just spiritual. It's not a good thing, not a bad thing. You're the one who decides what's a bad thing and a good thing. It comes totally from your perception of your brain to perceive. But what you perceive doesn't mean it's so. So I wouldn't trust perception, not man perception. Now, of course, the miracles, of course, define this whole miracle thing as a shift in perception. So you can move from misperception to perceiving truth. But perceiving truth isn't connecting to truth. You're perceiving it's there. I believe it. But it's not living as me. And that's where we want to work with those kind of blockages. Before I start, I want to announce that Wednesday I will begin an 8-week class based upon the elusive world of the Near East and the Aramaic language in which Jesus most likely would have spoke, and some of the others of his time that used Aramaic and Hebrew. Hebrew was more of a loan word. In other words, if they didn't have a word in Aramaic, they'd go and borrow from the Hebrew. So somehow the Old Testament in theology, in every time I say this, I want to say cemeteries, but it's seminaries. Kind of the same place, same thing. That teaches the whole Old Testament's Hebrew and all. It's that old third dimensional this or that. If it's not this, it's got to be that. And we lost some of the pure Latin. We lost the Aramaic. We lost even a more mystical Hebrew language than the old one, which the Kabbalah gives us a whole different language than the Orthodox type Old Testament Jewish teachings are, which makes them an interesting group of people. So I want you to understand this because I think it gives you a true context about these sayings. And let me just say that this will be a great journey for you that will come and commit to this online or offline. Be sure and be with us this Wednesday as we do an introduction. And then there will be 7 different weeks in which we will cover the Aramaic language itself, the idioms of the Bible. How many know what an idiom is? What's an English idiom?
Raining cats and dogs.
Raining cats and dogs.
Yeah.
You realize how many idioms you use in the language? That only the culture and the language would know what you're talking about? Every culture has its own language. Huh? And if you're somebody else and you're a literalist and you say, oh, it's raining cats and dogs, they're going to be looking for cats and dogs because they have no idea what's behind those words is an idiom. Over 40% of what is said through the teachings of Jesus is an idiom and not to be taken literally. So this is a valuable tool for you personally, but it's also a good one for you to use in your ministries. Now listen to me. I include you having a ministry. Every one of you have a ministry. It may not be up here in front of a lot of people, but every day you have an opportunity to extend the light and a little bit of more what's true to people. That's a ministry. You that have a compassion to go and visit someone that's sick, not because you have to, because you feel that's a ministry. You that have the gift of hospitality, that's a gift. And you love being the host and you love serving, that's a ministry. I want you to see that the ministry is just not someone who stands up in front of you with some label like leader or reverend or whatever, which means absolutely nothing. to me, but if you need to see me that way, that's fine. I have no problem with it. That's up to you. So anyway, we're going to be doing that beginning on Wednesday. I'll see how far I get in this today. I could have backed out of this as early as this morning, that I was wrestling with this. But I'm going to see what happens here. In 1967, we really began to understand the purpose of what stem cells were for. How many knows what a stem cell is? A stem cell is a part of our cellular being that can absolutely become anything. You know, we're all the product of stem cells. But we have stem cells. As we get older, we have less stem cells. But we all have stem cells. And that's the way a lot of the direction is going toward healing modalities and whatever, is toward this idea of stem cell work. Now, I know there's literal, and I've had stem cells. I've had several stem cells, umbilical cord. I've had stem cell of my own bone marrow. I've had stem cells, and it didn't work that well because I don't think it's perfected quite yet enough to be what they want it to be. But the thing is, we all have stem cells. And there's ways to activate them, but that's a whole different teaching in itself, right there. But this was a time in which we came to this when we still believed in an old paradigm that DNA drives the physical world. It's not too long ago that we still believed that DNA was set. And then Life magazine came out with that cover, I'll never forget, that says, DNA is not your destiny. How many of you saw that issue of Life magazine? That was brilliant. On the front page, what a shift in perception from victim to victor. As long as we believe that we were victim to our ancestral genetic story and DNA, we had to play the victim card. But as we come into the shift and move from just genetics and move a little above genetics into the epigenetics. Did you get that? Genetics, epi is a Greek term that means above genetics. So all along, there was this subtle set part of our DNA that was not discovered. Why? Because under Newtonian, you had to see it with your eyes. You had to prove it scientifically through an old Cartesian and Newtonian age. And I know things sometimes don't seem like it's going well in the sense of technology and whatever, but I want you to know behind the scenes, there is the evolution of consciousness. The only thing that is not evolving is not your newest Apple phone, which gets more and more and more and more. But behind the scenes, there's a remnant. That's the word that was spoken to me this week. Tell them about the remnant. God's remnant. God has never been into linear numbers. That's why what's coming up with all of this sacred geometry and Fibonacci. You need to understand how the universe thinks, and it thinks in frequencies and vibration and math. I really encourage you to come out and check on this important subject. In fact, we are soon, I don't know what month it is, but we're going to be doing a workshop here on the Fibonacci, tuning forks and whatever. Just a local 2-hour thing, so I hope that we can do that. Anyway, things changed. 1967, the idea that DNA drives the world, and by 1991, we had epigenetics. We give a lot of credit to Dr. Bruce Lipton for his tireless work that he has done for the last few decades to tell us and to challenge the whole scientific medical model, and himself being a medical doctor who taught medical doctors. made such a tremendous turn because he felt that we'd forgotten that the Spirit exists in every part of our body. So before we address what I want to address, let's look at the current state of chaos. In human behavior, we see something different that is happening today that has happened in the history of the past. So I'm going to give you some dates and days, I think, on 5 times. I don't know if you know this or not, and you can check me out. Anything I'm telling you today, I've done my best to research as factual as I can get it. But we have faced extinction on this planet 5 major times. And the new article that's come out is this: are we living in an age and civilization that is dying, or is it being born? Why I want to give this message to you, because I want you to get in touch with that part of yourself that is your co-architect of your incarnation. You're not a victim to God either. I want you to know that. I spent a long time in my ministry trying to believe that everything was tied to a separate God that was done for me. And all I had to do was learn how to deal with it in some way and convince it to do something for me. But I felt victimized. I was told that I was called to the ministry by God and I had no choice. And I went through years of resenting that. You know, when you're 17 years old, I thought, where's my prom? Where's my graduation? Where's the things that other 17-year-old kids go? Why am I out here trying to pastor a church in the middle of a racial breakdown in Montgomery, Alabama in '64? That was a big question. And then I learned that before I came, I chose my path. I have never, one time in my life ever thought, what am I going to do with my life? And I know so many do. I know so many young people are trying to search what I should go into and what profession I want to be. I just knew as early as 5 years old, you can believe that or not, 5 years old, when I was talking to the cows on my grandma's farm, I knew what I was going to do at some level at that moment. But I thought I'd been chosen to do it. I didn't know that the chosen meant I chose. I chose. And I was completely released of it. Actually, an inner healing happened in me, and any kind of subconscious bitterness toward this all-powerful God who has all power over me and I have no say, I carried that deep down. It was kind of in my subconscious part of me until it surfaced. And I realized that my real anger was with God at some level. But I was afraid because I didn't want to go to hell. So I let the God of fear. But you see, the only fear the God of fear had was my fear of it, which I gave it to him, until it became the thing that I feared the most. And it was my own fear. Everything is trying to mirror us and say, okay, this needs to be adjusted. This needs to be retuned. This needs to be corrected. And sometimes we just don't see life as that mirror that we have. This is coming, of course, from an idea of evolution, which Darwinism today is being tremendously challenged because it is totally based upon competition. And there's a shift out there which is being led by, again, Bruce Lipton and Greg Braden, and a few of us who have tried to bring this subject together of creation and evolution together to realize they have a place with each other, that they can partner to be very beneficial, and you don't have to choose this one over that one. In Christendom, you have people who are evolutionists or creationists. And I fell through that crack. But life has been on this planet for, what, 3.5 billion years? Just life, not people, but life. Virus, bacterias. On this planet 443 million years ago in the late Ordovician era was the first time that it began to go into a state of total extinction. I'll go through these real quickly. 359 million years ago, the second one. The third one was the Jurassic, 252 million years ago. And the last one is the Jurassic, 201 millions ago. And finally, the fifth one is the one you've heard about the most, 66 million years ago, which took the dinosaurs off the planet. So that's the closest one that maybe we've had any idea that there was something that just hit the planet 66 million years ago, probably in a Mexico area somewhere, and took over almost 90% of all species. The question in what they are saying now is, are we living close to the sixth extinction? You also can read this in some of the teachings of the Native Americans who talk about the 5 worlds. Isn't that interesting? You can also follow it all the way into the Vedas of the Hindu teachings to find also the different cycles. We're not talking just the astrological now, we're talking about big cycles. Evolution was very slow in the beginning. In fact, everything was kind of slow because we didn't know really how to control time back in the day, before we really were conscious beings. We had no idea about time. Now we're driven by time. But they may have known it was time to do the harvest. Maybe they knew it was time to do this or to do that, but that was instinct that was built into the human nature in the animal part of the human. All animals understand these things. You don't have to everything. I know you have to teach them to be nice, to conform to your rules of what you want. We all do that. But there's some things you cannot teach them. In fact, they could teach you. Some of your pets can teach you because they still have that part of nature that we've kind of sealed off in ourselves and lost at some level. So in 1970, the World Life Foundation did a survey of how many animals there are on the planet, showing that 63% of animals have disappeared in our time. 63% of the species of animals no longer exist. You know, the thing, and what's difficult to talk about what I'm doing, the best way I could give you that idea is the old illustration of the frog that's in the pot of water. And you turn on the fire and you don't even know it. The water gets a little warm and pretty soon you know it's going to be boiled. And that's exactly where we're living right now, is that we are suddenly being put into a position in which we're going to have to adjust and adapt to the changes that are upon us and accelerating themselves in the next few years in some way. So is it the end or is it the beginning? That's the question. What's interesting about the idea of the sixth time in which we will be faced with extinction is that it's the first one of the five others that is more man-made. Others are comets, earthquakes, tectonic plates, moving, all these things. And of course you see from those things that happen, these beautiful mountains that you all love. And you say, oh, God put it there. God created the mountain. No, the mountain probably came out of some chaos in which it pushed the earth up and went through a horrible cosmic time of chaos. At that time, if you'd have been living there, and now we look at the beautiful mountain, and we see all of the results of the different times our world has gone into a rebirthing of itself. Or let me say, a genesis. And that's why in the book of Genesis it is plural, in a beginning or in the beginnings, because there are many beginnings. And our question today is something beginning? At the same time, something is ending. And am I here by accident? Am I a victim to this time? How many of you might think, oh, I wish I'd have been born in another time? And I don't know about you, but I have to be careful because I'll let music and things like that take me back to the 50s and the 60s. I do it a lot. And now even the 80s are getting old, and the 90s, oh my God. Are you with me? Yeah. Because we don't want to really face the present time in which we have most likely chosen to incarnate and to be on this planet at this time. NASA a few years ago took a survey showing that the industrial civilization is facing an irreversible collapse in which we could be facing our extinction. You say, that's not very good. Well, good news. I've often said to be spiritual does not mean hiding your head in spiritual sand and covering it up with a bunch of platitudes. I have to be careful here because I want you to do positive affirmations, and all of that is important to an aspect of yourself. But you can't cover up what Spirit has incarnated to do and to be in this time that we live in. I sometimes feel where if there's any failure of me being with you has been, I don't know that I've always instilled within you the really spiritual, personal power of your life. I still think a lot of you feel like, I'm not good at this, I'm not smart at this, I'm not trained in that. I think it still goes on in you, and it defines you of who you're not. Who you're not. There is no lack in the so-called kingdom of heaven. We all share everything. People say to me all the time, how you have this ability to get there and do all of this? Well, some of it was there, but a lot of it was just stepping out and trusting. And I hope that you will begin to find more power in yourself to let the true you out, the authentic you out, the real you out. Ten 10,000 years ago, there was something called the animus. And this meant everything was spiritual. The amethyst would be Native American, South American, the Druids of Europe, would all were called animists. These are those who are connected to the spirit of nature and feel their oneness with all nature. In other words, they saw the Spirit in everything, not in specific gods, but in the tree, in the flower, in the crop, in the water, in the air, in the sunshine, in the moon. But then something happened called polytheism. Poly means what? Many. And all of a sudden we have the Greeks and we have the Romans, they come in, and all of a sudden they start making gods. Statues and God. There was a God for everything, a God for this and a God for that, and only the Spirit went into the gods. At this point, we're starting to lose the Spirit in us as we begin to give our spirit into the gods. Then, the next thing happened as polytheism began to fade a little bit was monotheism. One. And at that point, all spirit, which was in man and now in the gods, is taken out of the gods and put into one God who was someplace. Are you with me?
Yes.
I just want you to get that. And as you, and I'm kind of talking to the choir to a certain degree, because a lot of you who begin to find that you are spirit and spiritual, begin the eternal return back to what was inanimate, in the fact of everyone believing that everything was spiritual, had a spiritual component. And there wasn't one thing that governed this spiritual kingdom. It was within every cell of our body. Now, I'm blessed because I found that spirit. And I've shared with you in 89, 88 that I like to throw a little experience in here. So it makes more sense probably in some of the knowledge of it. But I just heard on a cassette tape, I won't go into that story. I won't go into my Memphis story, which in my book is called Misery in Memphis. And there's misery in Memphis right now, let me tell you. Need to pray for Memphis, for healing. So, being in a position that I was, I began to listen to this little tape somebody gave me, and somebody said it in a heavy accent. No Bible, no scriptures, no connection to anything in my head that he was saying. If he had given at least some Bible, I could have connected with him because I had a lot of Bible in my head. But he didn't. And I was bored listening to him, but had nothing else to do. TV wouldn't work. And all of a sudden I went into that dozing place between where you're kind of there and not there. And he said, new physics has found out that what we thought was empty space in the human cell is a teeming electromagnetic field of all possibility. And those words resonated in every part of my body, and I shot up off that table a different person, and I received cellular memory. May you all have some experience, please. If you've never really had an experience, such as the experience of the Holy Spirit receiving it or something, please, that's what you want to build on, is your experience, not your belief systems, not your perception systems. Experience is what I know. You can't change me on my experience. You can maybe influence me about what I believe by showing me different information, but you cannot move me because my rock is my experience of the moment that the cosmic mind that you call God penetrated into my little individual human brain and caused a spark. And that spark was a quickening. How many know when I say a quickening? You ever had a quickening? Yeah, it's a witness. Something quickens you. And it's powerful. It's almost electrical. The spirit and the electrical, magnetics come together to produce a witness to the truth. Your truth is your experience. Anything else is just a belief. And you're hoping it's right. And you want other people to agree to you because you need validation, because you don't know. You realize how much stuff is built on belief systems without any knowing or experience. So that was 10,000 years ago that happened. So monotheism took the spirit out of the planet and many gods and gave it to one God. So when we went from a time that everything was spiritual, now to a time nothing was spiritual, as we moved to materialism and Newtonianism, in which everything was physical and everything could only be fixed in the spiritual realm. There was no other realm but what you could see, the material world. Your ancestors, you had ancestors living in all these probably times I'm talking about in this sixth thing. They were there during these things. That story is in you at some level. Influencing some of your moods and feelings that you don't even understand about yourself is because their story is living in the subtle aspects of your human DNA, in the human genome. And I'm not using it like the genome is, but in the genome of the data and information that you are a story and carry the story of. So, what are choices here? Ignore the signs of the chaos and allow current decline to happen on its own. How do we do that? By remaining unconscious. Unconscious. Use the chaos as an evolutionary driver. Barbara Marx Hubbard, who was a tremendously influential person that I have great appreciation. She has made her transition not long ago. One of the great visionaries of conscious evolution says, crisis or chaos is an evolutionary driver. Driving us, and I'm going to add this, driving us out of the womb of an old system through the womb of a new model. And right now, your life is probably, oh my God, you know, I wish things were a lot smoother in my life. I'll be honest with you. There's some areas I would like to settle down a little bit. Mentally, emotionally, physically. No, try to follow me on this, because I thought back in the day of revelation that just the knowledge itself would bring me in the place that I'm not today. I thought it was going to. In fact, I thought it was going to bring me all the way to immortality, because that's what we taught back in the 80s. And it didn't. It didn't, because it wasn't just the knowledge of it that was going to do it. It is the awakening and remembering that is going to do it. So, evolutionary drivers. So how does this happen? When the world began to believe all answers to everything was in the material world, they did not need the spirit world, only the material world. Civilizations have a life cycle like everything else. Stars are born and die. People are born and die, and so do civilizations. There's even appointed death for our sun. It is many hundreds of millions, billion years from now, but there is a point in which the sun itself will come to an end. Everything that has a beginning will come to an end. The only thing that doesn't is that which is infinite and eternal, with no beginning and no ends. But here's what causes, and we'll leave this with you, this is what causes this decline that we're going through. Civilizations solidified their beliefs. Well, let me start here. The first phase of a new civilization is like a development stage of a child experiencing and trying everything for the first time. Even in my younger years, I guess I was just one of these people. I wanted to try everything. I wanted to hear everybody's idea of God and Jesus and all those things. I just was out there at a very young age, gathering data and information and trying to develop some kind of a mindset or consciousness that I could view myself and others through. But there was a time in my spiritual growth where I was, some suggested that I in some way settle and decide what I believed. Ministers were telling me you need to put 6 or 7 good sermons down, write them down, have them, and then just keep doing the same ones over and over, and memorize this and do that. They all had these ways of doing it that I didn't understand in any way. But here's the thing that it's saying. They try all different things out. Then when we grow, we end up with a regimental belief of how life works. This is what you face out there with family and friends and whatever. Now you that have little grandkids and whatever, aren't they much more open? Even the tuning forks. People say, the kids love the tuning forks. They know just exactly which tuning fork to go for because they haven't settled on what their belief of reality is yet. And this is what where we are in this civilization. We've solidified our beliefs and perceptions to believe they are true. I'm telling you guys, I don't even, today, what's true is whatever you say. Am I telling you the truth? You can say anything you want, and it's supposed to be true. We've lost the truth behind what we think is true. But because everything consists and continues to change and move and transform itself, if we do not move on in our evolution of our minds, this will lead to crises and challenges, having to make a choice. So the religious world pretty much for thousands of years has decided what the belief systems are pertaining to spiritual things, like God and hell and heaven. Been around a long, long time and it wasn't that way before the, say, 4th century or so. When we go back to even as far as we can go, we find a whole different story than even the one that's in the Bible. The whole story of Eden today is being challenged. The whole story that we've been taught in and through the lens of doctrine is not panning out to be what the truth was behind it. So we, and this is where I want to bring in as positive as I can, we are here because we are to, how do I say this? Work in the back, what do I want to say? Behind the scenes. Behind the scenes. In other words, I can't tell you, and I so appreciate and honor those who are activists. Activists. A lot of things that I believe in, there are activists out there that is on the street trying to educate and tell people. I don't know if I agree with how they're doing it because they are not coming from the right source of consciousness, which is you're broken, we need to fix you. I don't know if we'll ever fix the race question in this dimension. I'm not sure that we will settle on the gender dispute in this dimension. I'm not sure that you'll perfect marriage and relationships to its state of perfection in this dimension. I don't know if some of you will ever find true wholeness and health in this dimension. And that's why we keep going to doctors and practitioners that are no vision of the higher dimension and trying to fix us in this dimension. And this is what Soma Energetics had tried to build up a new place in which we taught don't fix. Tune and change people's vibration into another state and level. So fixing isn't exactly working. And this is why I'm bringing this to the idea of meditation here starting next Sunday. 10 o'clock. 30. I'm sorry, 10:30. 10:30. And it will start at 10:30 and the doors will be closed. And anybody can go next door. This is our fellowship place. This really isn't. This is not made for fellowship. This is made for our sacred place where we take off our shoes. We're on holy ground kind of place. Huh? So try this. If it just really upsets you, come talk to us. We'll try to work it out with you. But a little change is not bad. We didn't do a huge change. 15 minutes is not undoable for any of you to get here at 11 o'clock. Come and meditate for 20 minutes. There'll be very low, soft music playing because it's music that we feel is the music of the soul, and it'll occupy the soul and that part of the mind. Now, if you're ready for silent meditation, you're advanced, and that's a whole different class we could have. I'd love to see it. What is this important about? Not because we should meditate because of who we are in HeartLight. We need to meditate because we're ministering and interceding for the planet. Yes, the planet. Think huge. I mean, even thinking planet is small compared to the hundreds of billions of galaxies and all the universes that are out there. Our planet is so minute. It's powerful, but it's very small in its own way. But this, for some reason, has become an important point where Spirit wants to radiate out into wherever it goes, whatever limit it goes to. I have no idea. Maybe it goes forever. Maybe you're meditating. While you're meditating and you're in that chatter thing of trying to get it quiet, and you're going to go through all that. Some of you are, I know you will. Like, oh, I just can't get my mind still. I can't do this meditation. Quit fighting it, first of all, and allow it. And just try to tone it down a little bit. The best thing to do that with is a mantra. If you don't have a mantra and you want one, I'll do my best to give you one. And a mantra is a sound that will be given to you. You'll never speak it again outside yourself. It becomes your mantra. And they teach us in transcendental meditation to use a mantra. We like it. We've been doing it since 1990. When we do meditate, that's the one we use, is the transcendental meditation mantra. So I'm saying that because I wanted you to know that this can be such an important time for you to participate in the evolution of consciousness from this point in time and space, HeartLight. It's just a point. It's just a local point. That's all it is. It's a point with an address so we can know where to go and get together. It's just a space that has been designated. And we're trying our best to go a little deeper than just the old church model. Now, this is why I like what Lynn did. I can't tell you I always feel comfortable in the beginning of that laughing thing, but it's such a breakthrough if you do it. And you that maybe just didn't because you just felt so stupid and silly. We want you to. That's the whole idea of it, is to break down those old barriers that you've drawn for yourself. So come, and you that are meditators, not all of you are drawn to that. I know that. Be true to your passions and drawings. But if you're a person that really believes in the power of meditation, because we felt like what we was doing on Sunday morning was really not meditation, having people up here, and all it was words, 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 and visualizations. We love that. We will continue to integrate that in throughout the Sundays. It's not going away, but it's just not going to be a thing we do every Sunday. We're going to do other things and try to expand our experience here at HeartLight. Well, I just felt I wanted you to know this is the time. My scripture that I was going to use for the talk today is in Psalms 90 and verse 3. Thou turnest man to destruction, and sayest, return ye children of men. There is always the return. The word destruction is not a word that says, I'm punishing you and I'm going to destroy you. What it means, in fact, in the Jewish Bible, I was reading a dictionary, it said, and I'll turn you to dust. Will you give me 5 minutes? Because this is good. This is good stuff. Dust. Dust. Back in the day of the translation, in the English of the Bible, there was a word in Hebrew that they didn't have because they was looking for the word that would have been translated minute particle. And the only thing that they knew was gold dust as the smallest particle that they knew. So they put in, and man was made of the dust. So we think out of that earth. And we do have that earth with us. But we're also made of the dust and the earth are two different things. Now we know that we are made of these quanta, this most small unit that's not even visible, that we call particles, or particles, molecules, and molecules become so-and-so, and atoms become, and so things become from the most subtlest. It says also in that translation, I will crush you to dust. In other words, I'll bring you back to what you're made of. And when you get there, I'm going to give you a new blueprint of how to rebirth yourself even without physical death. You got to understand, not everybody will face the same kind of death when this all happens. And we are changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, from this mortal to this immortality. 1 Corinthians 15. And we shall not all sleep, but we shall be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, from corruption to incorruption, from mortal to immortality, from the terrestrial to the celestial. And I'm telling you, with all this kind of bad news I gave you that you might perceive it to be, is the time of rebirth. It is the season of spring in the hearts of those who are open to receive the fruit of a new harvest. Let us pray. Holy Spirit, I always question myself that I give it as clear as you give it to me, because I have to translate it down. So in any way in which I've not been at one with your voice, I ask that you take care of that in each and every one that is here, that they get it in the way that you would have it, not me. Speak to their hearts, speak in their spirits, speak to their minds in the whisper and the great winds of change and truth. Yes, we know that things do not look good and the prediction is not for good. That by 2040 there will be no live seafood in the oceans. But whatever's predicted, no matter how long it is, that doesn't mean there cannot be an intervention of the appearing and the coming of the Christ mind to change everything in a planetary Pentecost of being set free from the debt of 3D, to be set free from all breakdown and be more one with what is breaking through the light of higher dimensions. Let's breathe and just take a few seconds to let the Spirit minister to your hearts and your minds. Exactly what are you to leave this place with today that will be with you tomorrow, Tuesday? It'll come to mind, oh, that was good, I can use that. Holy Spirit, let us know the power of our thoughts and imaginations and our emotions and our feelings to be used as a recipe to extend you into the world. North, south, east, west, through all the nations of the world. Let us connect into the collective planetary consciousness, into the newest sphere of our planet. You that desire a healing in your body, if you're ready to receive it, receive it. Don't make it hard, just receive it. It's yours. It is your inheritance, it is your birthright. Anything else? Going to anxiety, fear, concern, and worry. If you choose in this moment, the Spirit will take it from you and bring it back into source to be recycled as pure white light energy. For nothing is wasted. I feel that if you have a family or family members that you are really carrying on your heart this morning that really needs something from you, I'm guided to ask you to bring that into your conscious view. That person, and just bathe them in the wonderful white light of healing and truth. And least but not forgotten, bring yourself. See yourself outside of your body as you're even sitting here, or however you picture your body self. See yourself. See yourself from the top of your head being covered and filled with white, golden, beautiful light. And in that light is a peace that passes the understanding of the mind. in that light is a certain joy in just knowing that all things work together for good and that everything will always work toward divine purpose of evolving itself and changing itself. I feel by Spirit to mention any financial situations and any of you are straining in any way or have any concerns about some decisions that you've got to make about your finances or whatever. I want to bring that up. Spirit is telling me this is a time in which Spirit wants to minister to that part of your life. And now picture yourself receiving a message that all of your debts have been paid, that you're totally clear of every debt, every situation in which there is a belief and limitation of resources. Go past Social Security or Medicare or anything else and realize they are not our source, but it's only through them that the source manifests as the finances that sustain us. I wouldn't look at anything in 3D as your source, only as a tool for source to use and to move through. And one last thing I want to do, Spirit wants to minister to you that are seeking to understand your way. You feel you want to be more active in some way. What can I do type of consciousness. And Spirit wants to begin to lead you and guide you toward how that you can contribute the light into your world. When we change our world, we change the world. For we are the world. Okay. When it's like this, you can just stay in that. That's what we want on Sunday morning. What this is right here. This is where I want you to go, right where you are right now. Because if I look upon you, I see the Spirit that was in you is now upon you, encasing you. We're not going to be the same. We're not going to be the same. Something has shifted. Something that was closed opened up. And something that's been held on to way too long has been let go of. Okay. We got to come back. Come back. Oh. I just know Spirit wants to do such a work. Wants to do a work. I just know that. A work. I don't even know what I know by that. I just know it wants to do something. A work.
Time to let your heart light shine. Time to let your heart